Okay, good morning and welcome everyone. My name is Michael Moresco, I'm the town administrator, and on behalf of the select board, I want to welcome everyone here today. We're here to learn and find out how Marshfield Community Electric will work. We're going to have a presentation in just a few minutes from John O'Rourke. The gentleman behind me is the Director of Marketing and Municipal Affairs for Good Energy, which is our energy consultant. They've been working with the town for a number of years now. The green aggregate electric, as it was on the ballot, at town meeting in November of 2019. We had a couple of citizens do a citizen's petition to get us to be greener in Marshfield. So the intent of the program is for the consumer to decide how much green electricity they want to contribute to. And folks got a mailing, it looks something very similar like this to your house. This came with questions and answers. There's a nice explanation on the bottom that John will get into about the categories that you can choose from. If you choose not to participate, you don't like green energy, you don't want it, there's an opt-out. It's February 26th. You have to have your card. There's a green card and an envelope. You sign it, you get it postmarked no later than February 26th, and you don't have to participate. And John will get into all of those important things that you need to do. What you need to, I see the two young ladies down back that just walked in. They were the ones that were instrumental in getting green aggregate on the ballot here in Marshfield to be adopted at town meeting. And of course, COVID was in the midst of that, and it took forever to get through the DPU's approval, and that happened September or October, and then that got us to where we are today, that we're very close now to getting more green electricity into Marshfield. Today, we have folks here at the EOC, and this is actually the first big public event that we're having here, and we also have people at the senior center, and folks can zoom in from their home. And we're going to be doing another one of these at night for people that can't make it. If you have friends, neighbors, family members, we're going to do another one at night. But we wanted to get something out there because there were questions from folks, and we want to be able to, once we get through the presentation by John, we'll do questions, and I'll be sort of recognizing people for questions in this room, and I'll be reading on my computer screen questions that come in from the senior center. So without further ado, I would like to call up John O'Rourke, and John will give us our presentation. Thank you. And Good Energy's been fantastic to work with on behalf of the town.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you all for being here. As Michael mentioned, my name is John O'Rourke. I'm the Director of Marketing and Municipal Affairs for Good Energy. We're the aggregation consultants that put this program together for Marshfield. Marshfield is in with 6 other communities: Cohasset, Situate, Rochester, Westfield, and Uxbridge. As he said, we started this program, well, we were talking to the town well before that, but this program started in 2019. As I told the senior citizens at Situate the other day, I had brown hair at the time. That's how long this has been in the works. Just to let you know a little bit about us, this is our customer-facing team here in Massachusetts. Philip Carr is our managing director, Stefano Loretto is our business development, myself, and Patrick Roche, who is the director of innovation. We're a national company. We're backed by 40 professional analytical research, customer service, and administrative personnel. So although you'll see mostly me, we've got a big team behind us. We have 20 years experience, both in aggregation and in serving large commercial and industrial customers. When we came into this market in 2014, we put our national experience together with local expertise, and essentially at this point we have 65 Massachusetts clients. The team operates the largest aggregation of its kind in Massachusetts. of 25 communities known as the Mass CEA, that's Community Electricity Aggregation, that recently became the largest of its kind in the country. So that's great for us. This next slide just shows you a summary of our aggregation plans. We have 45 that are active launches. That's part of what Marshfield is in. I mentioned the other 6, and then we have a 7th, which is the city of Fitchburg, that is going out at the same time. It starts on the March meter read. We have 3 plans pending approval at the DPU. Hopefully we get those through soon. We have plans in development of 4. We have new committed clients of 6. And we're talking to another 8 or 9 communities who are really interested in moving forward with aggregation. Now, aggregation only deals with the supply side of your bill. Distribution charges are not included in any of these prices that you see. And a question always comes up, because I'm in the aggregation, am I going to get charged for just more distribution? No. Everybody gets charged the same amount for distribution. All right, so we're talking just the supply side of the bill. Eversource is responsible for everything that they're responsible for now. They'll do the billing, they'll take care of any outages, any down power lines, maintenance of the system. Nothing changes for Eversource. The only thing that changes on your bill is the one line that says the supplier's name, which in this case is Direct Energy, and the rate, which is going to be a little different than the Eversource rate. The goals of aggregation, again, when we've been working with your select board and Michael and other municipal officials here for 4 years, all right, this gives you more competitive choice in terms of your ability to have pick a supplier. Now, you've been able to pick a supplier since the late 1990s, but most people, since deregulation, just haven't done that. Aggregation is one of the ways that allows you to do that. We have, most of the time, longer, stable electricity rates because our contracts are longer. This particular contract is 21 months long. It's probably the shortest contract we've done in a long time, because essentially that's what the market dictated. Most of our contracts are in the 30 to 36 month range, all right? You may know that the utilities change their rates every 6 months. So this gives you a longer window to budget and certainly to prepare for those rates over time. Potentially lower rates. We always look to get lower rates. We have to put the disclaimer in that savings are not guaranteed, because we don't know what future pricing will be for the utilities. However, both utilities this time went out in the market, and they're required to go out at very specific times for their 2 adjustments each year. And unfortunately, they both got caught in very bad markets. We were able to go out for a competitive bid in a better market, and that's why there's such a difference in the rate between the aggregation and Eversource. You have the potential for more renewable energy to be brought into your options. The town selected an option to have 10% more energy in what is known as the standard product, which is the default product that everybody gets enrolled in unless they opt out. And again, you're an eligible customer for this aggregation if you were on the basic service of Eversource. Everyone on the basic service of Eversource should have gotten a copy of this letter, this customer notification letter, okay? And then it gives you, and we'll go over the letter, it gives you choices of staying in the program at different levels or opting out of the program if you wish. What this also does is gives you increased consumer protection. We often find when we do an aggregation, we do a launch like this, when we talk to seniors, we always ask them to bring in their electricity bill to see who their supplier is. Many seniors don't know that they've been switched over to another supplier, and in many cases are paying exorbitant rates. So this will reduce a lot of those calls that you might be getting from marketers, retail marketers of electricity. This is just an example of the mass CEA aggregation that I mentioned earlier, compared to Eversource rates since January of 2016. You can see the orange line is the aggregation rates, and the blue line is the Eversource rates. So you can see historically we've done very well in terms of savings. And again, every time I mention that word savings, according to the DPU, I have to say that savings are not guaranteed. But as you can see, historically, we have a pretty good record. Now, on this letter you got, the customer notification letter, the first part of this letter, it gives you your options. Option one is, if you don't do anything, you'll go into the standard product. The standard product is the 16710, all right? It contains 10% more voluntary renewable electricity. If you do nothing, you got this letter and you do nothing, you'll be put into this automatically. The second choice, if you want to enroll in one of the other options, you have a basic option that is a little less expensive than the standard. It's called Marshfield Basic. That has the same amount of electricity in it, renewable electricity in it, as required by the state. No matter where you get your electricity from, you have to have 22% of what's known as Massachusetts Class 1 renewable energy certificates in that mix. All right, for this year it's 22%. That's an apples to apples comparison with your Eversource basic rate, has the same amount of renewable energy. And that third option is, if you want to opt out of the program, there's a card you can mail in, you can call Direct Energy, or you can submit an opt-out form at the electricity marshfield-ma.gov site. So there's always an opportunity to opt out. This grid gives you the details of the options as compared to Eversource. Essentially gives you the idea that you're going to be enrolled until December 2024, starting at the March meter read. And essentially, you can get out of this program anytime you want without termination fees or penalties. So if you get in and you don't like it for whatever reason, you can get out. This is just again, it's something that is put in the letter because everything we do has to be approved by the Department of Public Utilities. We can't say boo without the Department of Public Utilities approving it. This is just a breakdown of how the department counts certain renewable energy that's in the mix, okay? What we're really concerned about is that first column, the 22%, 24%. It's going to go up 2% each year for the next 3 or 4 years, then it's going to go up more than that. There are some frequently asked questions on here. And again, basically, Eversource will continue to do everything they're doing now. The only thing that changes on your bill, the name of the supplier, which is Direct Energy for this aggregation, and the rate. Everything else stays the same. Your relationship with Eversource stays the same as it is now. A question always comes up, am I going to get inferior service because I'm with the aggregation? That's a no, all right? Eversource, since deregulation, makes no money on the supply of the electricity. They only make money on the distribution, maintaining the system, taking care of outages, billing, administrative costs. They don't make any money on the supply, so they're neutral as far as where that supply comes from. So if you're in the aggregation, you'll still get the same reliable service as you get now, however you interpret that. You can switch among those options in the program anytime you want. If you get into the standard and you want to go up to 100% or down to basic, you can do that anytime by calling the supplier. Again, you can leave the program at any time without penalty or termination fees. If you're on a budget plan or a discount plan of any kind, that stays in place. Those are through Eversource on your distribution side of the bill, and they're not affected. For those who have solar panels, okay, you have a net metering agreement with Eversource or perhaps a third party that's not affected. Your plan, your net metering agreement and participating in the aggregation are side by side, they don't affect one another. Again, if you have a tax-exempt small business, okay, all you need to do is send in your tax-exempt form to Direct Energy, and the address is on the form, on this letter, and they will continue to give you your tax-exempt status. Also very interesting, if you pick the 100% option, that's the 17850, which has 100% renewable energy. The difference between that option and the basic, which is the 16310, that slice of renewable energy, okay, you can go to Green Energy Consumers Alliance, which is where we got the renewable energy certificates from. They are a Boston-based nonprofit. They are the gold standard here in Massachusetts for sourcing Massachusetts Class 1 renewable energy certificates. There's a form on their site. So for that slice of renewable energy, you'll get a tax deduction. All right, it's not going to be a big deal, but it is a tax deduction. All right, just for your information on that. Again, participation, who is eligible? All right, eligible customers are defined as those on the basic service, your R accounts, residential accounts, and G1 accounts, which is small business. So again, anyone who is on the basic service of Eversource should have gotten a copy of this letter, okay, explaining the program. If for some reason you're on the basic service and you didn't get a letter, all right, you can always call Direct Energy and come into the program if you wish. I did speak to a young lady this morning who basically said, she showed me her bill, she's on the basic service, and she didn't get a letter. You know, occasionally what happens is that we get lists from Eversource of all the eligible customers, and sometimes those lists are not as accurate as they should be. So essentially, you could call the supplier, and again, the number for the supplier is on the website. You can call them to get into the program if you didn't get a letter. And again, we have this 30-day customer notification period that is required by the Department of Public Utilities. During this 30-day period, you can opt out, you can stay in, whatever you want to do. Past this period, you can opt out whenever you want. Again, risk of inferior service, okay? Am I going to get inferior service because I'm with the aggregation? Am I going to get, is my supply going to be halted in any way because of in the aggregation? Not at all. None of those things are true. Again, budget billing, we get a lot of these questions, so I want to emphasize these particular points. If you're on budget billing or discount programs of any kind, they continue. And again, this is the tax deduction that you would get for that slice of 100% renewable energy. This is my contact information. You can email me or call me anytime. I'm up from 5 in the morning to 11 at night. sometimes earlier during my bear season because my bears visit me. But essentially, you can call me anytime. And now the fun part of the program, questions and answers. Michael, do you want to run the question and answers?
Thank you. So what I'm gonna do is just, there's plenty of time for people to ask questions. I'll just recognize folks, and then, I'll be trading back and forth, because I mentioned earlier, there are people at the senior center, so I'm getting their questions electronically. So we'll do some in this room, some there, we'll go back and forth, but we'll have plenty of time. So with that, if you just raise your hand, and I'll recognize you for a question. This young lady right by the doorway.
Does Eversource have the right to charge you more if you go on to, if you go onto this program and then you switch off?
No.
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 You would go back to
Everybody is charged the same.
Another question. This young lady in the white sweater.
I have a different supplier than Eversource.
Okay.
So can I opt into this Marshfield aggregate?
For those who have third-party suppliers, the first thing you have to do is call your supplier, make sure you don't have any termination fees or penalties for getting out of the program, okay? Normally, if you've been with a third-party supplier more than a year, okay, your contract is ended and you've gone into a renewal situation where there's no contract, but you got to check first. Once you check on that, you can let them know if you want to get into the program. You can cancel their supply, and 15 days or so before the end of their cancellation, you just fill the form out online. It takes about 30 seconds, and you'll be switched over on that next meter. You will never be out of electricity, okay? So don't worry about that, all right?
So the form is online, you said?
The form is online at the site. It's electricity.marshfield-ma.gov.
I have a question, John, from the senior center online. This individual buys green energy from Inspire. How do these rates compare?
I don't know what their rate
I know
is.
that, because I have Inspire also.
Okay.
And, whatever I opted into, of course, there are so many options, right? But I think mine was like 27 cents, so these are much cheaper.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Another question for me here, this gentleman.
If you're Eversource now, why do you have to opt out instead of being able to opt in like everybody else?
Okay, that's a question we always get, okay? People want to know, why is this an opt-out rather than an opt-in? The simple answer is that that's the way the law is, okay? Now, Massachusetts was the first state in the United States to institute what is known as a municipal electricity aggregation law, okay? That was back in 1999, all right? Every successful law since then has been based on the Massachusetts law. Rhode Island and New Hampshire, you had aggregation laws that were opt-in laws, okay, for about 15 years. 3 years ago, they both said, hey, we got to go to opt-out because nobody's bidding on our plans, okay? This is a really good business case why suppliers will not bid on an opt-in law. Let me explain opt-out first, okay? In an opt-out situation, there's a 30-day period where you have the option of staying in or getting out of the program. And you know what the rates are, okay? So within that very tight window, okay, the supplier is going to know how many people are going to be in that program. With our aggregations, we get between 80 and 85% of eligible customers in the program during that first 30 days. Suppliers know our aggregations are going to get that much, okay? They know what the load profile is, they know what the load is, they know what they're bidding on, okay, when they give us a bid for these aggregations. If it was the other way around and had to opt in, you wouldn't know whether you would get 80%, 60%, 20%, and you wouldn't know the time period that would come into. Now, any of you in the audience who has had to bid on contracts knows that you need very specific specifications. And if you didn't have specifications, it'd be like, you remember that game we used to play at kids' birthday parties? You're all kind of my age. Pin the tail on the donkey, okay? All right.
Okay.
National suppliers don't want to play pin the tail on the donkey. They want to take the blindfold off and put that right where they need to put it, right on the tail. That's the difference between opt-out and opt-in. So every successful plan in the country is an opt-out plan based on the Massachusetts plan. And the business case is the reason for that.
John, I have a question online, and this individual wants to know if they're correct that automatic enrollment is only for folks who do not already have a third-party supplier.
That is correct. It's only those on the basic service. Again, anyone who's on a third-party supplier did not get a copy of this letter, okay? We cannot market to those people because those people have already picked a supplier, other than the utility.
Thank you, John. This young lady in the red outfit.
Yes, as a follow-on to that question, despite the fact I didn't get the marketing letter, because I am on a third-party supplier, is it possible to opt in after because I know I just renewed in November.
Yes.
So, okay, when?
Yes.
Whenever.
Yeah,
As a
this,
Marshfield
this,
resident.
yeah, this 30-day period
Yep.
is just the initial period that is required by the Department of Public Utilities. If you're on a third-party supplier and your contract ends next year, when that contract ends, you can come into the aggregation.
But I looked online and I didn't see Marshfield aggregate as an option in the, is there a way to go about that?
As an option where?
In the supplier portal.
Oh, yeah, okay, there's a website run by the Department of Public Utilities called EnergySwitchMA.gov. That's what you're considering that. The reason why Marshfield isn't in there yet is because we haven't launched yet. We launch at the end of this customer notification period with the March meter read date. That's the reason it's not there.
I have another question from online. Do the renewable energy tax credits go to the town of Marshfield only, or do residents in the plan receive a portion of the credits as well?
No, the town doesn't receive anything from this. These are for individual accounts, individual residents, and businesses.
Okay, thank you, John. This young lady in the brown sweater.
I just want to make sure that my neighbor was asking this question too, so March 1st, is that when this will start, or?
The March meter read date. You all have slightly different meter read dates. It'll be
Okay.
your March meter read date.
And then this will go through, guaranteed these rates through December of 2024?
Through December 2024, the meter read date. Now, the only thing that can change those rates is what is known as a change in law, okay? This happens sometimes. The Department of Public Utilities or the state may change a law that affects the rate of electricity, okay? If that happens during an electricity contract, the supplier has the right to increase that rate to make up for it, okay? It's very rare, all right? Normally when they do things like that, they do it far enough out to be effective so that those contracts would be over by that time. But that's a possibility, it's a rare possibility.
So are people notified then?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Do you notify them by mail, or how are?
They will be notified. Sometimes it could be done by mail, or sometimes just by press releases or on the website. But again, most of the time, if you have a situation like that, that change would not be significant. It would be very little.
Okay, thank you. This young lady.
Is there a difference between direct energy and good energy? Is it the same company?
Okay, we are the consultants. We're not a supplier. All right, we put these programs together. Our only relationship with suppliers is that we have them do competitive bids for us. Direct Energy is not associated with us in any way.
This gentleman up back in the yellow and
If Eversource had a representative here, would they have an argument against this? And what would that be?
Well, again, Eversource doesn't make any money on the supply, so I'm not sure why they would, have an argument against us. As a matter of fact, which has happened for the first time since we've been in the business here in Massachusetts, we're getting calls from people who have called Eversource or National Grid to complain about the rates. And what Eversource and National Grid has done is said, call us. So they're directing customers towards us in towns where we have aggregations because our aggregations have a lower rate than they do. So in order to satisfy that customer, at least temporarily, come into the rate of that aggregation. And again, doesn't make any difference because they don't make any money on the supply.
thanks, John. Question, this young
Why
lady.
is it the basic rate rather than 100%? Why is it the basic rate instead of the 100%?
I'm not sure
The
what you mean by that.
program, we're in the basic.
Like, what's the difference between the basic and the plus, besides the price and what your services? Is that what you
Yeah,
mean?
right, yes.
Okay, well, the standard, and we're talking about the standard that everybody would be enrolled in, which is the 16710. That has 10% more voluntary renewable energy in it, that the town said, hey, we want more renewable energy in that automatic or that standard, because the people of Marshfield are concerned about the environment. Now, 10% doesn't sound like a lot, but when you put that together with all the other residents who are in this program, that adds up to a substantial amount. And that 10% goes to support the development of other renewable facilities here in Massachusetts and other parts of the grid. All right? And from that option, you can go down to basic if you're not concerned about renewable energy, or you can go up to 100%. So essentially, what the town has said is, hey, we want this to be basically available to everybody and give everybody a choice.
John, I have a
Does
question.
that answer your question?
I have a question online. If they're enrolled in the standard instead of basic, how would they get to change to have basic and a cheaper supply if everything is done by auto enrollment?
Essentially, that second choice in the letter says if you want one of the other options, just call the supplier, and they'll put you in one of the other options, either basic or 100%.
Great, thank you, John. Question,
I
Karen.
just have a quick one as a follow-up to her question about the rate change and it being due to laws changing. Would you find if that law changed, it would unilaterally change all the energy costs, so it's...
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's across the board. It would change the energy price of all energy. It would float all boats. Okay, it wouldn't just be for the aggregation. It would be for Eversource basic service. It would be for any supplier that is basically working in Massachusetts. Their rate would go up by the same amount.
Great. Gentleman in the red jacket.
Question on the renewable energy credits. Do you buy them or does Direct Energy buy them?
Essentially, Direct Energy buys them. Okay, we don't buy anything. The town doesn't buy anything. It's the supplier that basically buys those renewable energy certificates from Green Energy Consumers Alliance and puts that slice on top of the conventional bid that they've given us.
Do you get a summary back from them of what they bought?
A summary back?
Of the RECs that they bought over the course of the year. So how do you know how many RECs were bought by Direct Energy?
We can find that information out. It's not something that we have. It's not a stat that we have, commonly.
I think it would be
displayed.
helpful to the town if a summary was provided to the town about the RECs. RECs.
Yeah, we can get that information to the town anytime they want.
Could you do it in like a formal fashion, like semi-annually? Give us a summary?
Whatever the town officials want, we can do for them.
Well, it's not just what they want, it's what the
Right.
consumer would want.
Well, okay, if you want that, then you should ask Michael. Michael, tell us.
We'll have something up on the website. We'll work with Good Energy to get something, you know, probably semi-annually, we'll put up on the website. We'll have a section for aggregate electric, and then they can get a distribution, you can see where the green energy was purchased.
I think you pointed out that 22% are bought right now as a base by Eversource.
Yeah,
And
that-
I
that
have
is-
no
that
idea,
is
I have no idea what they bought, how they spent them.
Well, you'll get a disclosure label as well. You get a disclosure label from Eversource periodically that tells you, okay, where their energy is coming from. Most people probably just don't read that label, they just endorse it. But you get one of those from Eversource right now. Okay.
Terry?
Because Eversource has so many different fees, about 7 that I can see on my bill, can they add another fee by going through doing this?
No? Yeah, I look at those fees on my bill too, and I'm like, you know, what are these for? I'm an Eversource customer in Western Mass, so, yeah, I feel your pain, believe me, but they will not add anything. Okay.
John, I want to just get to a couple of questions that are coming in, so, I mean, is it possible to obtain a copy of the presentation you gave today?
I will give it to Michael, and if Michael wants to give it out, that's fine.
We'll put it up on the website.
And essentially, you've got your TV station here, basically taping the presentation, so it's going to be on air somewhere.
What are the options, John, after 21 months?
All right, what happens, we will probably start looking at renewing this contract somewhere in the spring of 2024. All right, we'll take the long view. Our analysts usually want us to go out and look at the market well ahead of the expiration date. And normally, the spring is a good time to go out to bid. So we will probably be looking in the spring of 2024, which is a little over a year from now, okay, to go out to bid to renew that contract. And essentially what happens, it's a competitive bid for each renewal. We go out to bid, just like we went out to bid for the launch. We go out to bid with 3 or 4 major suppliers, national energy companies, the largest of the group, who have experience at aggregation and handling these programs. We'll go out to bid, and we give the town, we usually go 12, 18, 24, 30, 36 months, 3 or 4 bidders, and they have a matrix of bids that they look at, and they pick the one that they think is best for the town.
Thank you, John. Question, lady in the white?
2 properties by the same owner in the town are able to be in the program.
2 properties by the same
If you
owner.
have 2 properties by the same owner in the
If
town.
you get a dozen electrical bills, every one of them will be on the program.
This young lady?
When you work with Direct Energy, do they attempt to get their energy from more or less local or regional areas? Are we getting energy from Texas or California, or do we know where it's coming from?
Well, some of it's coming from inside the grid, that's the New England grid,
Yes.
okay? Because they do have some generating facilities within the grid, but it also comes from outside the grid, okay? The New England grid can bring in energy from Canada, from New York, Western New York, Long Island.
But
So-
they do attempt to do it maybe regionally rather than...
We don't control what they do. They do what's best for them to provide the energy, okay? So we don't have any control over exactly, where that's coming from, but some of it is coming from inside the grid.
The reason I ask is because initially in thinking about the program, we were hoping that it would be a way of encouraging more further development of regional energy.
Well, essentially, we do that through the RECs, okay? The money that goes to the renewable energy certificates goes to support the development of new renewable energy facilities here in the grid. And, that's important.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you, John. Online question, can you opt back in the program after opting out? And if so, is there a rate increase or penalty?
Good question, good question. Okay. If you opt out of the program and then opt in, okay, normally on that first opt in, okay, you're going to get the rate of the aggregation. If you opt out and opt in a second time, there is a clause in the electric supply agreement that basically says that supplier doesn't have to give you the aggregation rate. They can give you a market rate at the time. Because what they don't want to see, they don't want to see people moving back and forth.
Great. Thank you, John. Question, gentleman in the yellow.
I got two questions. One is, can you explain the word aggregation? You've been using that a lot. I'm not sure I understand exactly what that
Okay,
is.
essentially all we're doing here is we're forming a buying group. Okay? We're forming a buying group with the residents within Marshfield and also with the residents of Cohasset, Situate, Rochester, Westwood, and Uxbridge. So we took that whole load, we aggregated that load, we put it all together, went out to bid. So an aggregation is just putting a buying group together.
Okay, so it's the aggregation of the consumers and not the suppliers. You're not talking about having a number of suppliers
No,
that
only,
you're using?
no, it's just the consumer.
Okay. The other question I have is about peak demand. With the increased use of renewables, I assume that what happens during, and I might be wrong, there's a higher demand and the supplier needs to then turn on generation facilities that literally are temporary. They're only for high demand periods, and you have to then pay a higher rate for however long they need that to fulfill the need. Does any of this affect what happens during those periods? Because those are really what drive the highest costs of your bill. Peak demands.
These rates are fixed.
Okay.
Okay, these are fixed for the term of the contract.
Oh, so they don't go up and down?
No, they're fixed. Now, interestingly enough, you bring up a good point. Over this past weekend when we had this cold snap, what day was it? Was it Saturday when it was in Conway, where I live, Conway, Massachusetts, was minus 15. Okay, and I looked at my my ISO New England. You can get an app from ISO New England, which is the independent service operator for the grid. And you can see real-time prices, okay, and what the fuel mix is, okay? On Saturday morning when it was minus 15, okay, the generation for oil here in the grid was almost 20%. That's total rarity, okay? They don't bring oil plants online unless they have a problem with a constraint in your natural gas at that point in time, okay? So that very unusual situation. But that also brought the price of per megawatt hour up to over $300, okay? In a period of time when it's normally in the $20 to $30 range. So it was like 10 times the cost at that point in time because of the weather. And they were bringing oil plants online, which are very expensive to bring online. So, but this program, this is fixed.
This young lady with the red and blue.
Oh, what about the delivery charge? Because under the circumstances you just describing, so they have to bring on other sources of energy. What about the delivery charge? Would that go up?
Their delivery charge stays the same for everybody.
Stay stable.
Well, it stays the same.
So
okay.
everybody may potentially have an increase in the delivery charge.
What? I don't know that that's true. Okay, but whatever your charge, if you're in the aggregation, whatever your charge for delivery is the same thing that everybody else is charged on a per kilowatt hour basis.
People that are on Eversource or on Sprint.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
It's all the same. Delivery charges are all the same for everybody on a per kilowatt hour basis.
John, I have a couple of online questions. I can't answer this, but I can get the answer to this. This person wants to know how much we're paying good energy to represent the town.
Okay, the town has no cost, no expense, okay? We do not get paid by the town, all right? We get paid by the supplier who won the competitive bid at the rate of 1/10 of a penny per kilowatt hour. Okay, 1/10 of a penny per kilowatt hour. To put that into perspective, remember the old 100 watt light bulbs? Okay, if you burn one of those for 10 hours, that's 1 kilowatt hour. All right, on that, we get 1/10 of a penny. That's 1 mil, okay?
Great, thank you, John. And then this other person wrote in, I think it's important to recognize that if people want the basic plan, it's not that we're not concerned about renewable energy, but that families are struggling, so.
We are getting a tremendous number of calls from people who have been on the 100% or whatever standard product they have in their aggregation, and have basically said, I want to go down to basic, how do I do that? So, you know, people are being strained, their budgets are being strained by rates.
Thank you, John. Question, this young lady.
I know my bill just jumped up from Eversource, and I called, and she said it was an actual read. So what's the difference between when they estimate and then an actual read?
You have to call Eversource for that. You know,
No, but you're doing the supply now.
Yeah, but we don't do any meter reading. That's Eversource.
So Eversource will still dictate the supply, how many kilowatt hours I
They
use?
measure whatever kilowatt hours you use.
All right, that was my question. They'll
Yeah.
still do the measuring.
Yeah, they do everything they do now. The only thing that changes on the bill, name of the supplier and the rate.
Question, this young lady.
Oh, thank you. So Direct Energy, they're the supplier right now. Is that true?
They are going to be the supplier of this aggregation starting on the March meter read.
Okay, and then when this expires, then you search for another.
What we will do, we will go out to a competitive bid, all right, with 3 or 4 national suppliers, okay, the biggest energy companies in the country, and whoever wins that bid, okay, it could be Direct Energy again,
Okay.
but it's a competitive bid.
All right. Are there many renewable suppliers locally?
Well, okay.
Or just the plants or the infrastructure?
Now, these are national conventional energy suppliers, conventional electricity. As I said, we use a Green Energy Consumers Alliance because they're recognized as the best in Massachusetts to provide our renewable energy certificates, all right? There are others, okay? We could get our renewable energy certificates from the suppliers if we wanted to, all right? But most of the time, what happens, because Green Energy is a nonprofit, okay, their rates are usually lower than any RECs that would come from the suppliers. So we usually, and we want to use them because what happens with their RECs is it's basically to support other projects here in Massachusetts.
Thank you. John, can you just, this person's interested, if you could just repeat the website where they can go to view what each plan covers.
The website is electricity-marshfield-ma.gov.
Can you just repeat that, please?
Yeah, it's electricity dot Marshfield hyphen dash, right, hyphen dash, MA from Massachusetts, .gov, G-O-V.
Are there different rates, John, for R1 versus R3 customers?
No.
Okay. Questions in this one? This young man.
I guess I'm still stuck on the opt-in, opt-out. You said that if we had the right to stay out of it and not opt in, that they force basically people to be opted in, and once you send in something to opt out. The rate that you quoted is fixed, right? What would happen if, say, half of your group decided they didn't want in?
Rate stays the same. It's a fixed rate, whether there's 10,000 accounts in it or one, rate stays the same.
So if we just go into the standard, what if you want to go into the basic? Do you have to do, what do you do?
You have to call the supplier. On the bottom there, you'll see the number for direct energy. You just give them a call, let them know that you'd rather be in the basic than the standard. And they'll just put a different code on your account, that's all.
Thank you.
John, I have a question on here about commercial, not residential bills. Is there a third party going to be automatically operating? And what is the commercial rate of Marshfield's aggregate?
All right, the rates are the same for all residential and G1 accounts. Okay, it's not different for commercial, all right?
Great, thank you. Question, young lady in the black sweater.
There was a slide that was shared today showing the history of this program. Since 2014, there were 64 towns involved. I'm just curious as to what percentage of the customers decide to stay on the program.
Jay, could you put up slide 7 again? Thank you. All right, this program started on the January meter read in 2016. All right, what has happened with virtually all our aggregations? Okay, we have started out in the 80 to 85% range of eligible customers. We normally gain clients as we go along because those who have basically opted out in the beginning and were skeptical, okay, realize that down the road at some point, maybe this isn't such a bad deal. My two neighbors are getting a pretty good deal out of this, okay? So we have some aggregations that have gone from the 80 to 85 range to up to in the 92, 93 range, okay? So over time, we actually gain customers because people understand that this is a good thing.
And the initial customers choose to stay with the program as well.
Oh, absolutely, sure.
And the difference in the cost for, for Marshfield, you know, looking at the line 2023, the aggregate is 10 cents, whereas we're going to be charged, you know, for the standard of 16.7. What is the difference?
Well, okay, this 1047 contract was negotiated back in the spring of 2020. 3-year contract that started in January of 2021. That's when the electricity market, the energy market was a whole lot different than it is now. Now you have national factors, you have state factors, you have constraints of natural gas, you have all kinds of factors that are leading to that spike that you see there that started last year.
Okay, and one other question.
Sure.
What would be the main issues, concerns, challenges for those people who decided to go with direct energy? What have you found based on this history?
Well, okay. Now, this particular aggregation is with Constellation. All right, but you know, the basic element that people are looking at in these plans is price. Okay, there's price and there's renewable energy. Those are the two things that people look at, basically, all right? And you can see from this that those who stayed in are doing okay. All right, and again, I have to say, future savings are not guaranteed. I say that in my sleep.
Thank you, John. And John's right about that, it sounds, but DPU was very specific when they approved this. Every piece of literature goes out, says future savings are not guaranteed. They just want that, but, you know, you'll see from the information.
It's the same thing you see on any stock prospectus you see. Okay, same thing.
Question, this gentleman with the blue hat on.
Explain to me again why you're showing 11 cents for the aggregation and 25 cents for Eversource? Eversource is going to be 25% soon. It's at like 21 or 22 now, I believe.
No,
why are you showing it if you're projecting any?
On January 1, it went up to the 25,776. And this is just an example.
My rate was 21%.
Okay, this is just an example, okay, of this particular aggregation. And you've got 21, and the reason you have 21 is because your bill, okay, straddled two rates, the 17 and the 25, okay? Depending on your meter read, that's a blended rate that you got in your last bill.
Question, ma'am.
Yeah, a question. With interest of voluntary renewable energy aside, if more people switch to the Marshfield Basic rather than the Standard, do you have a better chance for, when you go out to bid for rates, if more people in the aggregate that Marshfield will belong to do keep the Marshfield Standard rate? Is that a better bidding position for you to get?
No, and the reason is because we bid the conventional side and the rec side separately, okay? So that rec, the amount of recs is layered on top of that conventional bid, all right, depending upon what the rec bid is, okay? And again, there's no effect on, we usually in these plans, we usually get, the standard option usually gets about 95% of the people in the program. You'll get 2 to 3% that go to basic or to go to the 100%. We have a couple of communities that really push the 100%, and they get up to 4 or 5% in that product. But you don't see a lot more than 5%, okay? Even though there are a lot of people talking about, you know, environment, renewable energy, blah, 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 but hardly ever gets over 5%.
Well, more people who are on fixed income would be more interested in saving that money at this time. So, but it doesn't sound like you're really going to save that much more money if you go to Marshfield Basic rather than Standard.
Yeah, it's 4/10 of a penny, okay, which is not a lot to most people.
John, I have a couple of questions. What was the reasoning behind assigning residents to the Standard group at a higher rate instead of the Basic group that is less expensive?
Again, you know, the town in its concern for renewable energy, and again, you know, this was the pulse of the population here in Marshfield, based on, you know, the temperature they took of the residents. More residents were concerned about renewable energy. And again, you know, we're talking about a small slice of renewable energy, okay? And we do that because you don't want to tell people, hey, you know, you should get into 50% renewable energy on this automatic option. You don't want to do that. But when you look at the number of accounts here in Marshfield with just a little bit more renewable energy, that turns into a big impact in terms of providing more support for the development of renewable energy facilities, okay? And that is the reason why Marshfield picked that as the automatic or standard. And again, that's why you have that option to go down or the option to go up. it gives everybody a choice of what they might want to get into.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
Question from Gary. He wanted me to ask you, do you want to address the issue of opting out and then not being directly contacted again via opt-out package? And then he went on to say, one may change the status of their participation via the website as well as an alternative to contacting Direct Energy.
That's Gary Fogelman. He's one of our guys in the background that is very important. And essentially, you know, if you have opted out, we can't contact you, all right? If you opt out, we can't contact you again. When we do what is known as sweeps, we do that every 4 or 5 months. We get new accounts in. We get the accounts that are still on basic service. We'll send you a letter like this if you want to participate. But for those people who have opted out, all right, we can no longer contact you. If you want to come into the program, you can always do that on your own, but we can't directly market to you. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Gary. Questions? Lynn Fiddler is one of our newest select board members. So thank you, Lynn.
Hi, everybody.
Madam Select.
Hello, nice to see you.
Good to see you,
Thank you
too.
for being here and providing us in the community with such a wide range of information. And I applaud everybody for being here and share it at the grocery store, at the bank. So everybody's asking me, and I'm in the same position as all of you are with my family members, etc. But one of the things that did kind of draw my attention to is the law, and we are always watching the laws and how they affect the town, how they affect the state, federal level, et cetera, et cetera. So when there is something on the horizon as far as a law, is there something that you could offer the town, the pulse of what is potentially out there for us to be aware of? Or is that something that we would do in our role with Michael, and maybe Michael has some input on that as well?
First of all, let me tell you, I was a selectman for 9 years, so I don't know whether to congratulate you or to offer my condolences.
I know. I've heard it all.
Anyway, there is some talk. There is some talk about different procurement methods for the utilities. That's being batted around. Okay, that's probably the most important thing that's in the wind right now. Of course, you know, you have the other situations about Vineyard Wind and the offshore situation, which from day to day looks different. Okay, in terms of when that might come on board. All right, but you know, with the recent death of the whales, there's a big movement to say, hey, maybe we don't want these turbines out there, because apparently they claim that that's one of the reasons why all these whales, 9 or 10 whales now, washed up on shore. So those are the two big things that are coming down the line. And normally, if we see anything that we think will change the whole landscape of this, we will let municipal officials know, and of course the board side.
Okay. And John, I just want to follow up on Lynn's question. You know, the other part of that, we did get a question from the senior center on, in Marshfield, we've embarked upon being green and complying with, you know, being totally green by, you know, 35. If it's attainable. And one of the things we're doing is we're putting green energy. The select board's been very supportive over the last 4 or 5 years that I've been here to go green, and we're doing that. We're going to put photovoltaics on our cap landfill. We're putting carports in a lot of the municipal buildings. We're switching over to electric vehicles, but with the carports and the rooftops on the municipal buildings, we'll be creating green energy, which then goes to Eversource for people to use. So we're doing our part because the support of our local government officials, we're doing that, and we'll continue to do that and continue to expand that here in Marshfield.
Great.
Question?
If the wires were underground, would that impact the delivery charge and things like that? Because now we're not having trees taking them all down every time we have a storm and things like that?
That's a question for Eversource.
Eversource, yeah, unfortunately.
So Eversource is in charge of putting the lines underground, not
Correct,
the town?
Correct. It is costly, we've asked, though, being Marshfield residents, you see the wires down all the time on 139 by Hewlett's Point, you see them down on Bay Avenue, along the river and stuff like that, and it's just, even when we open up the roads, DPW does ask if they have any, interest in putting the conduit underground. They don't, it's very expensive, and the areas they do it, they do pass it on to the consumer.
Yes, certainly to put wires underground is a really big expense. And they're gonna pass that along, so.
Even though they don't have to do as much work.
We have a question, another question from, it says, I'm not sure if they missed it, there will be another meeting, I think it's gonna be it will definitely be at night, and I think it's the 22nd.
22nd,
The
yeah.
22nd, there'll be more information on the town's website. Another person asked, can you put up the slide about tax credits? They think it's slide 15.
Jay, could you put up slide 15, please? 15. And you see, we get our renewable energy certificates from Green Energy Consumers Alliance. They're a Boston-based nonprofit organization. So the cost of those RECs for the optional product, that slice between that 17,850 and the 16,310, that slice is tax deductible. There's a form on the Green Energy Consumers Alliance site where you can fill out and get your tax deduction, your tax credits.
Thank you, John. Question?
It was mentioned that rates cannot be guaranteed. How will the Marshfield customers of Direct Energy be informed of rate changes?
All right, now, we say that future savings cannot be guaranteed because we're comparing it to the basic service rate, okay? The aggregation stays fixed, okay? It's the basic service rate that goes up or down, okay? And, you'll see that every time that happens with Eversource or National Grid, there are press releases to that effect.
Right, but my understanding is the aggregation stays fixed for a certain amount of time. Eversource, do they release new rates every January, July?
Every 6 months.
January and July?
Well, they release those rates about 6 weeks before they start. So the January 1 change was basically announced in the middle of November. And the rate change for July is announced in the middle of May. And that's when you know, okay, and when those are announced, we update the website, okay?
Marshfield Town Hall, or will this be going through your Direct Energy website?
This is through the website that I mentioned, electricity.marshfield-ma.gov, okay?
All right.
And we'll have stuff on our website.
It'll be on the town website.
Yeah.
Okay. And if, we decide initially to go with Direct Energy and then down the road decide to leave, what is the process to leave? And then are there any fees involved with going back to Eversource? If you would.
You can fill out an opt-out form on the website, or you can call the supplier.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question. They want to know, do you know what Direct Energy's Better Business Bureau rating is?
We only deal with the largest, most reputable suppliers, okay? I'm not sure what their rating is, but I'm sure it's pretty good.
Thank you, John. Questions? Question, this young lady.
In the future, as renewable energy becomes more abundant and presumably then less expensive, would it be possible for the town to change its basic service amount of renewable energy if we needed to, say, meet whatever the state's energy goals are? Like, could it go from 10% to 15 or 20% if it made sense?
Yeah, we have municipalities who have renewed with a larger amount, a larger slice of renewable energy, but didn't increase the price
Yeah.
okay? Because of the amount, the price of the RECs at the time. And there's always that option for the town to change that.
And would the town have to go through all the regulations and
No,
red tape
no,
that we
it's
did?
No, just on the renewal, okay? They can decide if 10%, they think 10% is right, they could stay with 10%. We may have a situation at the next renewal where 20% renewable in that standard product would be basically the same price as it is now, okay? Because RECs might be cheaper at that point in time. All right, there's a REC market and there's a conventional electricity market.
And who would make that decision? Is that something that?
Town officials make that decision.
Town officials would make that, okay.
Okay, question. Someone, this young lady in the pink right up there.
A friend of mine was wondering if it would be beneficial for the town of Marshfield to have their own electric company. I know I've lived in several different towns that had their own, and the rates were much lower.
That question comes up often. Okay, why aren't we like Braintree or Hull or one of the other towns that have what is known as a municipal aggregation, municipal light plant? Okay, the last municipal light plant that was formed in Massachusetts was 1928. Okay, the reason for that, okay, the infrastructure today in any town, okay, to purchase that infrastructure and to separate that town from the rest of the grid would be a tremendous expense, okay, and not feasible, not economically feasible.
I will pass that.
John, a couple of more questions. Someone said it was a very informative session. They wanted to say thank you. This person wants to know, when should I opt in? Should they call Direct Energy if they already are a third party?
If you have a third party, and again, you contact them, you don't have any termination fees or penalties, normally about 15 days before your March meter read, okay, you would call Direct Energy, give them the information, and you would be switched over on the March meter read.
This person said John, they didn't get the letter. They wanted to know, what is the standard rate? What is the standard group rate?
The standard rate is 16,710 per kilowatt hour.
And since you didn't get the mailing, another person right under that said, who should they reach out to? So they go to the website. Yeah, you go to the supplier, Direct Energy, in that website.
Right, and the number is on the website.
On the website. Thank you. Questions? This gentleman in the yellow shirt.
As far as green energy is concerned, and this doesn't have anything to do with the price that you're selling and all that stuff, what is your viewpoint as to what's the future of green energy? At some point, a lot of the stuff we've been, a lot of the photovoltaic cells, windmills, they need to be, taken down. They're going to have their lifespan 25 years. New stuff has to come in, and government programs subsidize a lot of that. Are you privy to how the government's going to keep supporting these things, or?
All right, Massachusetts is a leader, okay, in the promotion of renewable energy, okay? But even as a leader, okay, right now, real time, the amount of energy in the grid being produced by renewables is 10%, okay? So it's not a whole lot. Now, if I go a deeper dive into those renewables, right now you've got 36% solar, you've got 16% wind, and together, burning refuge and wood is 46%. So half, okay, half of what is being produced as a renewable is by the burning of refuge or wood, okay? So many people think, oh, renewables are all over the place. It would take a tremendous amount of acreage to put in the amount of panels that you would need, okay? It would take a tremendous amount of acreage also to put up windmills. Okay, that's why they're putting them offshore, because no one wants them in their backyard. All right, so even though Massachusetts is very in tune with more renewable energy. Would take an awful lot, okay, to substitute for what is now, right now, for the conventionals, we have 53% is generated by natural gas, 29% by nuclear. That's 82% of your electricity right now is generated by natural gas and nuclear. So, you know, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So it's not as big a share of renewables as you might think.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
Question, what happens when the contract ends in December of '24? Are residents going to be notified about the contract expiring with Direct Energy? And are residents notified of price increase once the contract expires?
As I mentioned, we will go out to bid again in the spring of 2024. And the residents will be renewed well in advance of the expiration of the contract in December. And again, you know, as I say, we can't say boo without the approval of the Department of Public Utilities. All of these things that we have to do are in their regulations, and we have to follow their regulations. So there would be plenty of information out before the renewal of this contract.
Thank you, John. Question, this young lady.
It seems like I'm a little more confused now than when I came in about the
Oh boy,
differences between-
sorry about that.
Just the difference between the standard and the basic. Could that slide be put back up? And just, because I don't know if I understand it right at all.
Jay, could you put up slide 9, please? Okay. Now you see, that's your standard in the middle. Okay, and it has a 10% more renewable energy. All right, I gotta say voluntary renewable energy. Okay, that's 0.4 of a penny above basic, so it's not that much. And then if you want to go to the plus, or what they call it plus now, it's 100%. It's the 17,850.
Okay, and then, so did I hear right too, if you chose the basic, you have to get your own supplier? Is that what, did I hear that?
No. You just call Direct Energy to go to either the basic option or the plus option. If you don't do anything, you'll be in that middle option, the standard.
So
Okay.
Is there any difference between the basic and the standard other than the price?
Well, the amount of renewable energy. You got the 10% renewable energy, voluntary renewable energy in the standard,
And what do you get?
and that increases the price by 0.4 of a penny.
And what's the percentage in the basic?
Okay, this is the minimum required by
Oh, like a 20-something%.
22%, okay?
And then with the standard, they add 10 more.
Yeah, 10 more,
Renewable.
exactly.
Okay, I did
Exactly.
understand that, okay.
Okay, and there's more detail on that in this chart in the back,
Okay.
but many people look at that chart and they get too confused, so I didn't talk much about that.
Yes, I was getting confused.
Okay, but again, you know, we've got to put these things in there. Sometimes they can be more confusing than they're worth. Okay.
Thank you, John. Any other questions? Any other questions? A couple of more people saying thank you, great presentation. I don't see any more hands for questions, so I just, on behalf of the town, I want to say thank you for Good Energy and for John being here today.
Again, I'm always available for questions, either by email or by phone. That's my cell phone number. So I'm always around.
And we'll be having another meeting, public information session on the 22nd, so you can check our website, and I'll get a press release out with that information. So thank you for participating, and I hope everyone got their questions answered.
Will that be here?
That will be in the press release at the location.
Oh, okay.
And thank you all for coming.